Ever heard about a ghost ship?
No, like a real ghost ship,
Not just one lost at sea,
but one found completely abandoned.
with a table set for dinner.
Oh, wow.
Get ready to dive into
The chilling tale of the Carroll A Deering.
a case that has baffled investigators
Mm.
and armchair detectives
Ah!
for over a century. The more you learn, the deeper the mystery seems to get.
Right. It's like something out of a movie. We're talking about a five-masted schooner, one of the last of her kind, vanished into thin air.
Leaving behind nothing but questions
Hmm.
today. We're going to sift through the evidence, eyewitness accounts, official reports, even some far-out theories, and see if we can make sense of it all.
What I find most fascinating is how a seemingly ordinary cargo ship, built in 1919, named after the owner's son, became such an enduring enigma.
Her final voyage, beginning in December of 1920, reads like a maritime mystery novel.
Okay, so picture this. It's January 1921. The Deering is on her way back from delivering coal to Rio de Janeiro. They're expected in Hampton Roads, Virginia, any day. So far, so good, right?
Except, she's sailing right toward one of the most treacherous stretches of water on the East Coast, the Diamond Shoals. It's a notorious ship graveyard off the coast of North Carolina, shifting sandbars that have claimed countless vessels over the centuries.
And to make matters worse, this is where the Deering has a strange encounter with the Cape Lookout lightship.
The lightship keeper, Captain Jacobson, reported something odd. Instead of the captain, a tall, thin man with a foreign accent used a megaphone to communicate from the Deering. He claimed they had lost their anchors in a storm.
Hold on. If something is wrong enough with a ship to warrant talking to the lightship, wouldn't the captain himself be the one doing the talking?
It's like this mystery is hinting at something being off from the very beginning.
That's exactly right. What's more, Jacobson observed the Deering's crew milling around on the quarterdeck.
Now, for those unfamiliar with ships,
Yeah.
the quarterdeck is sort of like the captain's domain.
Yeah.
It's unusual for the crew to be congregating there without a specific purpose.
That does sound strange. Almost like they weren't following the usual rules and routines of a ship. What does that tell you?
It suggests a possible breakdown in the chain of command. Was it simply a relaxed moment? Or could it point to unrest amongst the crew? Maybe even a brewing mutiny. It's hard to say. But it is a detail worth noting as we delve further.
Okay, so we've got an unidentified man in charge, a crew acting strangely, and a ship heading for danger. What happens next?
Well, the very next day, another ship spots the Deering, and it is indeed heading straight for those deadly Diamond Shoals.
You've got to be kidding. With all hands on deck trying to steer clear, right?
Surprisingly, no. The captain of the other ship said there was no one visible on the Deering's deck at all. It's as though they were completely oblivious to the imminent danger.
This is where my imagination runs wild. It's like everyone just disappeared, leaving the ship to sail itself. Or maybe they were forced off somehow. What did investigators make of this?
It is a chilling detail, isn't it? A ghost ship sailing towards its doom. It's no surprise that on January 31st, the Deering was found run aground on Diamond Shoals, exactly where that passing ship had seen her headed.
Okay, so the ship that was built to withstand storms is ultimately claimed by one, right? End of story.
Not quite. While a massive storm did hit the area, the Deering was actually sailing away from its path, not into it. And the storm was so bad it took rescuers days to reach the stranded ship. They couldn't board until February 4th.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like for those rescuers, approaching this massive schooner battered by the storm knowing something was very wrong. What did they find when they finally got on board?
Prepare to be chilled, because they found a ship frozen in time.
Ugh.
The Deering was completely deserted. No crew, no signs of a struggle, just silence.
You're kidding. What about the crew's belongings? Any indication of what might have happened?
Here's where it gets even stranger. The ship's log, the navigational equipment, the crew's personal belongings all gone. Even the lifeboats were missing. It's as if they vanished into thin air, leaving a half-eaten meal in the galley.
Okay, hold on. They left a meal half-eaten. This isn't just odd. It suggests they left in a hurry. But why abandon a perfectly good ship, especially during a storm, without taking even the lifeboats? This goes against every nautical instinct.
You've hit on the biggest mystery of the Deering. It's as if something happened so suddenly, so unexpectedly, that they had to leave immediately.
So what are we left with? What explanations did investigators explore to explain the unexplainable?
They considered everything: natural disasters, piracy, even mutiny. The hurricane theory, while initially plausible, doesn't hold water, no pun intended, given the Deering was sailing away from the storm's path. And while some speculated about rum runners, remember it was the Prohibition era, the Deering was too large and too slow to be effective for smuggling illegal liquor.
Right, those theories do seem a little far-fetched given what we know. What about piracy? I mean, we're talking about a time when the open seas could be pretty lawless. Could the Deering have been targeted by pirates?
It's a popular theory, and for good reason.
Uh,
Several ships had disappeared under mysterious circumstances in the Atlantic around the same time. The idea of a rogue wave sweeping the crew overboard was also considered, though, with no bodies ever recovered. It's hard to imagine the entire crew meeting such a fate.
so if it wasn't the storm, rum runners, or a rogue wave, what other explanations were on the table? We've ruled out a lot of explanations already, but the more we uncover about the Deering, the stranger it gets. Were investigators able to pin down any more promising leads?
One of the most compelling theories involves the possibility of a mutiny. Captain Wormel, it turns out, had expressed concerns about his crew, particularly the first mate, even referring to them as a tough bunch in letters.
Okay, so there was some tension on board. But what would drive a crew to mutiny, especially given they'd be taking their chances abandoning ship in the open ocean?
That's the million-dollar question. Perhaps they were hoping to disappear to start new lives for themselves. Remember, we're talking about a time when vanishing was a bit easier than it is today. Or maybe something happened at sea, something unplanned that forced their hand.
It's like trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Did they find any clues on the Deering itself that pointed to a possible mutiny?
They did find something quite intriguing. Remember how the lightship keeper said the Deering had lost her anchors?
Yeah, and that whole thing about the crew acting strangely on deck?
Exactly. Well, when investigators inspected the Deering, they found the anchors were in perfect condition. Not only that, but the chains had been released using the proper nautical procedures. This wasn't a panicked or rushed job.
So someone deliberately lied about the anchors, and if they lied about that, what else were they hiding? It makes you wonder if that tall, thin man on deck was really who he claimed to be.
Precisely. This seemingly small detail casts a long shadow over the entire case. Was the crew covering their tracks? Were they trying to throw investigators off their trail?
I have to admit, the mutiny theory is starting to sound more and more plausible. But even if the crew did mutiny, what ultimately became of them? The lifeboats were never found right.
That's the biggest loose end of all. It's possible they sailed for a nearby port hoping to disappear into the crowds. Or perhaps they met a tragic end at sea, lost to another storm, their story forever swallowed by the waves. We may never know for sure.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Having all these clues but no definitive answers. It's what makes the Deering such an enduring mystery. It's a reminder that even in this age of technology and information, there are still some secrets the sea refuses to reveal.
And that's part of what makes it so captivating. It allows us to speculate, to fill in the blanks with our own imaginations.
It makes you wonder what really happened on that final fateful voyage. What secrets the Carroll A Deering took to her watery grave. If only those salvaged timbers now part of houses on Hatteras Island could whisper their tales. What do you think, listeners? Could a house hold the key to solving a century-old mystery?